Hey guys, it's DJ I'm going to talk about the differences between INTJ and INFJ. First of all, let's look at the second functions. Okay, so INFJs are feelers. They have extroverted feeling as their second function, while INTJs are thinkers. They have extroverted thinking as their second function. Okay, so what this means is that INTJs have a grounded, objective kind of logic to them. Okay, while INFJs have an ungrounded TI logic to them, a subjective, individual logic. You can almost think of TI as being individual logic and TE as being group logic, almost. The reason for this is because let's imagine you're standing on the beach. Okay, I've made this reference many other times in other videos of mine. You're standing on the beach and you're looking up at a mountain and it's floating, and there's a party going on up there in the mountain, and on this floating mountain, and you're sitting there and you're wondering, you're like, how did they get up there? You're talking to your friend, you're like, how did those people get up on that floating mountain? Why is that mountain there? It doesn't make any sense. You can't argue it. I mean, it's right there. Somebody made it. Somebody put a lot of effort into making that mountain float. It doesn't really make any sense, but it's there. It's floating. It's hard to argue. I'm confused. How did they get up there? How are they the only ones who understand how to get up on that mountain? And the other guy's gonna be like, well, I don't know. I just do what I'm taught. I just do what's, down to earth. I don't know how to get up there. So anyway, that's sort of a difference between TI and TE. TI is the floating mountain of logic floating in the sky, okay? That is unbridled TI right there. Unbridled TI without any sort of TE, okay? Now what you'll notice is that INTPs, any of the TPs that use introverted thinking as one of their as their stronger functions, they're going to have, they're going to have a moderate amount of extroverted thinking. Their unconscious functions are going to be, one of their top two unconscious functions is going to be extroverted thinking. So it's still there. They use it unconsciously. They don't really analyze it all. It's just sort of gut intuitive. They just sort of check. Every so often they'll just sort of turn to the side and check, like, does that make objective sense? Yes, it does. Okay. And then they'll keep going. So this is why INTPs, ESTPs, ISTPs, and all the other TPs can have a very scientific and objective logic to them. Okay, INFJs cannot. Okay, because their extroverted thinking is way down. It's like the third unconscious function. It's down there. It's weak and it's pitiful, and it's not going to be doing very well. So. INFJs have an extremely weak grounded logic. Okay, how does this present itself? Conspiracy theories. Okay, I'll give you a little example of me using my TI conspiracy theory logic and presenting it to an INTJ. I go on this website that talks about this theory that some guy, who I imagine was an INFJ, sat there and created. It's this epic story of how Satan lived on Mars, and then God got pissed at Mars and took one of the asteroids from the asteroid belt and threw it down at Mars and wiped out all life on Mars. And Satan somehow, now he's somewhere else. He just, I don't know, maybe he just moved to Saturn or something, moved to Europa. I don't know. But, this story was epic. I'm like, oh man, the logic all makes sense, because you read the Bible and it says fire and brimstone, and here he is, and here's this, and he puts up a good compelling point. And then I present this to my INTJ friend. I'm like, check this out. This is awesome. And then this is like me back in like 7th grade when I was an idiot. And then my INTJ friend, he's just like, did any of this happen? Did any of this happen? And I was just like, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I suppose it's possible. I'm just talking about it would be cool. Like, what if this happened? It would be cool. And he just got like frustrated. He's like, no. he didn't like it because it wasn't. You can't talk about these kinds of things to an INTJ. They'll pick it apart. They won't like it. So that's a difference. The INTJs, they're going to have a much more grounded logic. Okay, they're going to have a much more grounded sense of what is established, what kind of logic is useful in an objective sense, and what is not. So they're going to be a little bit more textbook. Okay, they're going to use what has been tried and true. They're going to use what is objective, what can be measurable. Okay, and this typically takes the form of stuff you learn out of a textbook. Okay, typically, extroverted thinking and objective logic tends to come out of a textbook. So these INTJs are going to have this objective logic, and these INFJs are not going to have any objective logic. They're going to be more dreamers. What if this happened? What if this happened? What if that? Wouldn't it be cool if? A bunch of what if questions that are just kind of cool to think about. And the INTJs, they don't really like thinking these fantastical what if questions. Now, let's go into the feeling side of it. INFJs have extroverted feeling. They are expressive. They have actors' faces. They're very expressive with their faces. They make all sorts of gestures, and they can communicate all sorts of emotions to you with using only their faces and their tone of voice and all this sort of stuff. Just by the frontal facade. Okay, the big facade that they can put on if they want to, of that's extroverted feeling. Okay, INTJs, you have no extroverted feeling. You have none. None, zero, zero. You are not expressive. You look like a robot. I'm sorry. Okay, you guys are kind of cold-blooded. You got that ghost pale face thing going. You're just like, somebody makes a joke and you're kind of like, bah! Like, I don't know, it's just all or nothing when it comes to facial expression. In fact, a lot of times, extroverted feeling is going to be kind of a joke to INTJs. A lot of their jokes are just these quirky sort of extroverted feeling jokes that just come out of nowhere and just completely. It's when they do become expressive, it's like they don't take it seriously. They don't appreciate its value. It's always a joke to them. INTJs get uncomfortable when you want them to become expressive. Now, INTJs, you guys got introverted feelings, so you still feel things, okay? You do feel things. You might not want people to think that, I suppose. But you still feel things. It's kind of like, your feeling function is weak, okay? So what that means is the weaker your function is, the more primitive it will be, the less control you have over it. All or nothing, okay? Nothing in between. So your extroverted sensing is going to be all or nothing. I'm either the best when it comes to competition, or I'm not even trying at all. If I'm anywhere in the middle, I'm going to freak the hell out, okay? I'm going to get really frustrated. I'm going to be really uncomfortable, okay? That's extroverted sensing. All or nothing, okay? Very little control, very primitive, okay? Introverted feeling, third function in an INTJ, still primitive. Not so much all or nothing. Maybe there's some, there's a dead zone in the middle. It's not so much all or nothing, but it's kind of down here, and then sometimes it's up here, So it's still kind of primitive, okay? You don't have very much control over it. You do have a degree of control over it, but not very much. INTJs are going to enjoy sort of intellectual yet ethical debates. So discussing John Locke versus this, is euthanasia ever justifiable in these contexts? Is abortion ever justifiable in these contexts? INTJs are going to enjoy these more ethical conversations, while INFJs are just going to enjoy these more fantastical what if questions. What if this? What if that? What if this? What's this? Why is the sky blue? Blah, blah, blah. Introverted thinking asks a lot of questions. Okay. Let's see. INFJ or INTJs. Back to the primitive function. Let's take a look at INTP for a second and ISTP. They got that really weak fourth function extroverted feeling. Okay. So when they like a girl, they go on a date with someone that they really like. suddenly they explode with emotion and they get incredibly emotional, and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't know how to deal with it. They're just like, oh god, and then they start using their heads. They start thinking that they can use their heads to sort out their emotions, but they can't do that because it's emotion. You can't use your head to sort that out. So these introverted thinkers, dominants, they have this sort of hyper emotionalism, okay, where they think they're feelers. They'll think they're a feeler because of these uncontrolled emotions that they have and how incredibly powerful they are. But they're not. They're not feelers, okay? It's just that they have, on a daily basis, they're not feelers, okay? So INTJs, it's the same way, okay? You may have these incredible bursts of introverted feeling, and you might think you're emotional, but really you're not. I mean, compared to other people, you're just not. You don't have that much control over your emotions the way an INFJ would, okay, or the way an ISFP would. So let's go over to one more thing. Actually, that's about it. So, in a nutshell, if you're an INTJ, you're going to have a grounded logic, okay, that is more tried and true. Your logic is not going to be debatable. It's going to be very hard to debate. You're oftentimes when you argue, you're just going to say facts. This is true. That is true. This confuses introverted thinkers. We're like, oh, it's all true and it can't be argued, but there's got to be something. Where's it attached to? Oh, it's not attached to anything. You can't justify those facts. Why can't you justify those facts? I don't know. They're just objective. They're just true always. Oh God, what do I do? Okay, so you extroverted thinkers, you've got these facts that just can't be argued. That's often why it's difficult to argue with you guys. And then us introverted thinkers, we have infinite facts. Okay, we have infinite facts to back up what we're talking about, which is why it's hard to argue with us, because you're like, no, it's true because this and this is also true. Because this and this is also. This is why extroverted thinking and introverted thinking, they just go round in circles and they don't go anywhere. Okay. So, if you're an INFJ, you're going to have this ungrounded logic, okay? You're going to have this complete lack of objective logic, actually. INFJs have a very weak extrovert logic. Yep, that's all I got. Let me know if you have any questions. Thanks. Bye.